The ancient wisdom teaches us that happiness is not something we must chase or acquire from external circumstances, but rather a state of being we can cultivate from within. Paramahansa Yogananda, the great spiritual teacher who brought the science of Kriya Yoga to the West, offered profound insights into achieving lasting joy and inner peace. His teachings remind us that we possess the power to transform our consciousness and experience uninterrupted happiness, free from the turbulence of worry, anger, and pain. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, give me a like, comment below about your thought and hit subscribe button so you don't miss any video inspired by Yogananda's teaching. Thank you very much. The challenge he presented to his students was both simple and revolutionary. Could you remain in a state of perfect happiness for 24 consecutive hours, untouched by negative emotions? This question cuts to the heart of spiritual practice and reveals the true nature of our relationship with joy and suffering. Most people believe their happiness depends entirely on external conditions. They think they need the perfect job, the ideal relationship, abundant wealth, or favorable circumstances to be truly happy. When things go well, they feel elated. When challenges arise, they plunge into despair. This roller coaster of emotions keeps them perpetually unstable, always at the mercy of forces beyond their control. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how happiness actually works. True happiness springs from within. It is our natural state, the essence of our being when we strip away the layers of conditioning, fear, and false identification with the ego. The soul itself is made of bliss, and when we connect with our deeper nature, we tap into an inexhaustible wellspring of joy that no external circumstance can diminish. The practice of maintaining happiness for 24 hours is not about forcing yourself to smile through difficulties or denying legitimate pain. Rather, it is about developing such mastery over your inner state that you can remain centered in peace regardless of what happens around you. It means cultivating a happiness so deep and stable that it cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks, disappointments, or challenges. Consider how much of our suffering is self-created. We worry about things that may never happen, replaying worst-case scenarios in our minds until we've worked ourselves into a state of anxiety. We hold on to anger over past slights, nursing our grievances and keeping our wounds fresh through constant mental repetition. We magnify small problems into catastrophes through our negative thinking patterns. In doing so, we voluntarily surrender our peace and happiness to thoughts and emotions that serve no constructive purpose. Worry is perhaps the most insidious thief of happiness. It masquerades as prudent concern or responsible planning, but in reality, it is nothing more than fear projected into the future. When we worry, we imagine negative outcomes and then emotionally react to these imagined scenarios as if they were real. We suffer twice, once in our imagination and again if the feared event actually occurs. Most of what we worry about never comes to pass, which means we've wasted precious life energy on phantom problems. The antidote to worry is trust and present moment awareness. When we truly understand that we cannot control the future through anxious thinking, we can release our grip on outcomes and instead focus on taking appropriate action in the present. We can prepare sensibly for challenges without emotionally investing in disaster scenarios. We can acknowledge uncertainty without letting it paralyze us with fear. This shift in perspective alone can eliminate a tremendous amount of unnecessary suffering. Anger is another major obstacle to sustained happiness. When we feel wronged, disrespected, or frustrated, anger arises as a protective response. It gives us a temporary sense of power and righteousness. But anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It burns within us, disturbing our peace, clouding our judgment, and often leading us to say or do things we later regret. The person we're angry at may be completely unaware of our emotional state, while we suffer intensely from our own hostile thoughts and feelings. Learning to release anger quickly is essential for maintaining inner peace. This doesn't mean becoming passive or allowing others to mistreat us. It means responding to situations with wisdom and clarity rather than reactive emotion. It means recognizing that holding on to anger only hurts ourselves. When we can observe our anger without identifying with it, when we can feel it arise and then consciously choose to let it go, we reclaim our power and our peace. Physical and emotional pain also challenge our ability to remain happy. Pain is an inevitable part of human existence. Bodies age, become ill, and experience discomfort. Relationships end. Loved ones die. Disappointments occur. We cannot avoid these experiences, but we can transform our relationship with them. Pain is a sensation or circumstance. Suffering is our mental and emotional response to that pain. While we may not be able to eliminate pain entirely, we can dramatically reduce our suffering by changing how we relate to difficult experiences. The key is to develop what might be called witness consciousness, the ability to observe our experiences without being completely identified with them. When pain arises, whether physical or emotional, we can acknowledge it without letting it define our entire state of being. We can say, "There is pain in this body," rather than, "I am in pain." This subtle shift creates space between our essential self and the temporary experience, allowing us to maintain inner peace even in the midst of difficulty. Meditation is the most powerful tool for developing this kind of inner mastery. Through regular meditation practice, we learn to quiet the restless mind and connect with the deeper peace that exists beneath the surface turbulence of thoughts and emotions. We discover that we are not our thoughts, not our emotions, not our circumstances. We are the eternal witness, the consciousness that observes all these changing phenomena without being fundamentally altered by them. When we meditate deeply, we touch a state of pure being that is inherently joyful. This joy doesn't depend on anything external. It simply is. The more we practice accessing this state, the more it begins to permeate our daily life. We carry that inner peace with us into our activities, relationships, and challenges. We become like a deep ocean that remains calm and still in its depths even when storms rage on the surface. Cultivating gratitude is another essential practice for maintaining happiness. When we focus on what we lack, we create a sense of deficiency and dissatisfaction. When we appreciate what we have, we generate feelings of abundance and contentment. Every moment offers countless things to be grateful for. The breath flowing in and out of our lungs, the miracle of consciousness itself, the beauty of nature, the kindness of others, the opportunities for growth and learning. By consciously directing our attention to these blessings, we train our minds to default to appreciation rather than complaint. The company we keep significantly influences our ability to maintain happiness. Negative, critical, or drama-prone people drain our energy and pull us into lower emotional states. Positive, uplifting, spiritually minded people inspire us and support our highest aspirations. While we cannot always choose who we interact with, we can be mindful about where we invest our time and energy. We can seek out relationships that nourish our soul and gently distance ourselves from those that consistently disturb our peace. Our daily habits and routines also play a crucial role. Starting the day with spiritual practice, meditation, prayer, inspirational reading, or yoga, sets a positive tone that can carry through the entire day. Eating wholesome food, getting adequate rest, spending time in nature, and engaging in activities that bring us joy all contribute to our overall sense of well-being. When we take care of ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually, we create a strong foundation for sustained happiness. Perhaps most importantly, we must remember that happiness is a choice we make moment by moment. In each instant, we can choose how we respond to what life presents. We can choose to focus on problems or possibilities. We can choose to hold on to resentment or practice forgiveness. We can choose to worry about the future or trust in a higher wisdom. We can choose to identify with our pain or connect with our deeper peace. These choices accumulate, shaping our experience of life and determining whether we live in joy or suffering. The challenge to remain happy for 24 hours is not meant to be easy. It is designed to reveal how much control we actually have over our inner state and how often we unconsciously surrender that control to external circumstances and habitual reactions. Most people, when they first attempt this practice, discover they cannot maintain happiness for even an hour without some worry, irritation, or negative thought disturbing their peace. This realization is valuable because it shows us where we need to focus our spiritual work. With practice, however, we can extend our periods of uninterrupted happiness. We become more skilled at catching negative thoughts before they spiral into negative emotions. We develop the ability to quickly return to center when we've been knocked off balance. We build such a strong connection to our inner source of joy that temporary disturbances cannot penetrate very deeply. Eventually, happiness becomes our default state rather than something we must constantly strive to maintain. This doesn't mean we become emotionless or detached from life. Rather, we become more fully alive, more present, more capable of experiencing both joy and sorrow without being overwhelmed by either. We can feel compassion for others suffering without taking on their pain as our own. We can acknowledge difficulties without being defeated by them. We can engage fully with life while remaining rooted in an inner peace that transcends all circumstances. The ultimate goal is not just to be happy for 24 hours, but to establish ourselves permanently in the joy of the soul. This is the promise of all genuine spiritual paths, that we can awaken to our true nature, which is Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. When we realize this truth experientially, not just intellectually, we discover that happiness is not something we must create or maintain through effort. It is what we are when we stop creating unhappiness through our mistaken thoughts and beliefs. This journey requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. We will stumble many times. We will forget our spiritual ideals and get caught up in drama, worry, and negativity. But each time we remember and return to our practice, we strengthen our capacity for sustained happiness. Each moment of conscious choice builds our spiritual muscles. Each time we choose peace over agitation, we make it easier to choose peace the next time. The world needs people who have found this inner happiness. When we are established in joy, we naturally radiate that quality to others. We become a source of light in the darkness, offering hope and inspiration simply through our presence. We can serve more effectively because we're not depleted by our own inner turmoil. We can love more fully because we're not seeking to fill our own emptiness through others. We can face challenges with courage and creativity because we're not paralyzed by fear. So take up this challenge with sincerity and dedication. Commit to remaining in a state of happiness for 24 hours, free from worry, anger, and pain. Notice when negative states arise and gently return to peace. Use every tool at your disposal. Meditation, prayer, positive thinking, gratitude, conscious breathing, uplifting company, and connection with nature. Learn from your failures and celebrate your successes. Most importantly, remember that the happiness you seek is already within you, waiting to be uncovered beneath the layers of conditioning and false belief. Your true nature is joy itself, and the journey is simply one of remembering what you have always been.